This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. It's nearly the end of the year. I wanted to do a little bit of a year in gear. That's too bright. Washing up. Nothing weird. A bit of a year in gear thing, because for me it's been an interesting one. I had a daughter in January the 30th. So it's been a year where I've played quite a bit less guitar than any year prior to that. But also a bit of a year where there's some strange kind of things have happened as they go. I'm trying to look for eBay. There's been a bit of a year of downsizing, or continuing to downsize. There were some things that I maybe never thought that I'd sell that I've actually now let go of, because I think it was more just a sentimental attachment more than a useful attachment. The Mesa Boogie Electrodyne I sold on the 26th of January, just before Elodie was born. So that was a very nice looking amplifier, but I hadn't used it live for nearly 10 years. I sold an American vintage Hot Rod 60s Telecaster that I just had in the cupboard. I actually bought that back a few years ago off of someone, because it was a guitar that I'd taken on a gig away in Israel at a hotel in like 2016 or something like that. So it sort of had some sentimental attachment. I bought it again. I got it back. I did really like it and thought it sounded really good. But it was a little bit heavier than the other telly that I have, and so I thought actually it's another thing that doesn't need to stay if I'm never going to use it. A pedal that I bought to demo that I really didn't get on with and couldn't really find a use for was a Chase Bliss Generation Loss. I know there's going to be some people watching this that really like the Chase Bliss stuff, and I really like the Automatone stuff and the reverb and the mood, but for me the Generation Loss just seemed like a bit of a odd one. I bought and sold a Strymon Cloudburst. The Cloudburst I thought was a really, really great sounding pedal, and the polysynth part of it was my favourite part. I sold a Quad Cortex because I got a little bit, fed up. But it looks like maybe next year might be a good year for the Quad Cortex, where hopefully the first plugin is going to come across. But I think maybe it'd be fair to say, perhaps you may or may not agree, that it's been a bit slower than maybe we thought things might be. It's nearly now 4 years, right? Nearly, something like that. I bought and sold the Gibson Kirk Hammett Signature. I think that was probably the second most expensive guitar I've ever paid, and I wasn't that impressed with it. It was very heavy, and I think a little bit overpriced, to be honest. It's basically just a Gibson Les Paul Faded. That one, I thought, a bit of a money grab. We've since seen some more eyebrow-raising stuff from Gibson, right? I bought and sold a Carolan Tucana 3. I bought it on the basis that I really like the Fractal audio version of it. In real life, I didn't like it quite as much as the actual model, so that was kind of nice how that worked out. Saved me a bit of money. I think probably my favourite guitar of the year has been the PRS SE DGT, and probably the most surprising one, because that, to me, I thought initially that's a bit of an overpriced guitar for an Indonesian guitar, but when I got it in my hands, it's currently with Tony, I felt like it was a really, really impressive guitar and had some of the stuff that I think people like about the core models. Definitely doesn't feel cheap. I think sounds really good, and rolling back the tone on it sounds amazing as well. One of my favourite things about PRS guitars. I bought and sold a Fender Tone Master Pro. That one was one where it was kind of came out of nowhere, was a bit surprising, and of course the marketing on it was very good, but actually when you dig into things a little deeper, there's a little bit more to it than meets the eye. And I think if you look at some of what they're saying now, I think Fender even really have admitted they've not hit the mark and that they plan to make the thing better. Kind of an interesting and fairly quick turnaround on that. This week I sold my last Mesa Boogie amplifier. So I've been a Mesa Boogie fan for basically since I was about 16 is when I think got my first Mesa Boogie Nomad 45, which was the last one to sell. But basically I've decided that probably in my experience, because basically when I gig I do sound and stuff like that as well, so for the band, I'm pretty sure at this point that I'm unlikely to bother with a 4-cable method sort of thing, and therefore channel switching amplifiers are not really part of the deal anymore. This has been my most used amp this year, the Rift, the Dexter, which is a matchless Lightning clone but with 6v6 in it. I also got my lightest cab that I've ever had, which is the Matrix Neolite, and that's like 7 kilos. So it's been really nice. You know, I think one of the reasons that people give up amplifiers in general is because of the weight, and actually both of these things are incredibly lightweight. I say that and then nearly fall over, but you know, relative to other things, that's just been a real nice thing to have that I could chuck in. It was only £150 as well for a hand-wired amplifier, because he was kind of blowing it out because it was a bit of a joke amplifier, but it sounds amazing and works really well. Zilla made the enclosure for me. Thank you to Zilla. And yeah, taking that out with the Matrix Neolite. The Matrix Neolite doesn't record especially well because it's kind of ported, and I found that kind of gets quite woofy and kind of farts out the speaker, not the speaker, the microphone. Yeah, it's been a bit of a one where I've not been too ready to spend loads of money on new guitars. Aaron Marshall's Schecter, I think, is a great guitar that I bought off of a buddy, Dave, and that one is really cool. Chris is borrowing it at the moment. I think that Tokai that I was playing in the intro is an ES335 that I or copy that I really like. I sold some of the Sire stuff. I still have a few bits and pieces, but yeah, I kind of just wanted to not have loads of guitars lying around, so I've sort of consolidated and sold some of the cheaper stuff. And I guess it's, yeah, the main guitar that I've been playing all year really has been that blue K-line. I've actually put it away in the cupboard so that I have a chance to play other stuff rather than just always gravitating to that. My favourite pedals of the year, Mercury X from Meris. I was involved in the beta testing for that, and that was really cool to be involved with. I think it's a great sounding reverb, and has some of the stuff from the CXM 1978, so kind of a format which suits me a little bit better than the big Automatone sliders. The Friedman IRX I thought actually is incredible, for me at least, and I've kind of want to try gigging it in the new year with the HX effect. I think that could be a really decent setup as a sort of non-modelling kind of halfway house. But yeah, I thought that sounded really good and really enjoyed every moment that I've spent playing it. Most surprising pedal, I guess, for me was the Line 6 HX1, which, yeah, still, you know, there's a gap in the market for this sort of thing, I guess, for Line 6, you know, building on what the Line 6 M5 was about. Not that difficult to justify if you think about it in terms of a few different roles. So like maybe like the Digitech whammy stuff, you could consider it as a replacement for that, or a Digitech drop. But like a Swiss Army knife pedal that could do lots of things, but only really one thing at a time. But it does have MIDI, so you can integrate it in stuff. This made me sell a Digitech whammy DT, because actually that form factor and powering it is much easier. I sold a load of pedals really, and to the point that I don't have too much left. My pedal of the year I think has been the Boss Angry Driver and the Boss Blues Driver, which is included in the Boss Angry Driver, but that's essentially a Marshall Governor type circuit from JHS, the Angry Charlie, and a Boss Blues Driver in one. And I think it's actually two really underrated circuits in terms of, if you actually go back to the original, the Marshall Governor, which has a great balanced kind of rhythm tone. I was just chatting to Alec about this, and also the Blues Driver, which is just a really fairly unique drive, which does sound great. So that's kind of my year in gear, I think. Anything surprising there? Oh yeah, I bought the 2-Rock off Jake. So yeah, I did basically, I think probably I've sold far more gear than I've acquired this year, so that's a positive, but one fairly expensive one. Sorry about that. Let me know your year in gear if you would. Oh, my favourite kind of digital thing this year has been the Bassman model, which got brought to the HX Stomp. I've used that loads since they brought that one out. So yeah,